Hello and welcome. Today, we're diving into a topic that's on the minds of so many parents and caregivers, childhood anxiety. It's something that can feel really confusing and overwhelming, but we're going to break it all down. What it is, what it looks like, and most importantly, how we can support the kids in our lives.
So let's just get right to the heart of it, with the question every parent asks themselves at some point. We all expect our kids to worry sometimes. A big test, the first day of school, that's normal, right? But how do you know when that worry becomes something more? Okay, telling these two apart is absolutely crucial. On the one hand, you have normal anxiety. It's basically the body's alarm system. It's a temporary feeling tied to a specific situation, like feeling nervous before a soccer game. It happens, and then it passes. But on the other side, you've got an anxiety disorder, and this is different. This is a medical condition where that feeling of anxiety is cranked way up all the time. It's persistent, really hard to control, and it starts to get in the way of everyday life, like making friends or just enjoying being a kid.
So, to really understand what's going on, we have to become good detectives. We need to know what signs to look for. And honestly, this is the first, most important step you can take to helping your child.
And just so you know you're not alone in this, look at this number. 1 in 4, 25% of teenagers have an anxiety disorder. This isn't some rare, uncommon issue. It's incredibly prevalent, which is why it's so important that we get good at spotting those early signs.
Now, anxiety can be a real chameleon. It doesn't always look like fear. Sometimes it looks like anger or irritability. You might see your child crying more than usual or suddenly fighting you on going to school. Maybe they get super clingy or they're terrified of social events. These behaviors are often the most obvious clues that something is bubbling under the surface. And it is so important to remember that anxiety isn't just in their head. It's a full-body experience. The body keeps score. So your child might complain a lot about stomach aches or headaches with no clear cause. You might notice them trembling or their heart racing. These physical feelings are very real, and for a kid, they can be terrifying because they have no idea why their body is feeling so out of control.
Okay, so anxiety is a big, broad term. It's not just one thing. In fact, it comes in a few different flavors, you could say. And understanding which type your child might be dealing with really helps in figuring out the best way to support them.
First up, you have Generalized Anxiety Disorder, or GAD for short. You can think of this as a kind of free-floating worry. It's not about just one thing. It's about, well, everything. School, friends, sports, the future. Kids with GAD are often little perfectionists and can be incredibly hard on themselves.
Next, there's separation anxiety disorder. And listen, it's totally normal for a 2-year-old to cry when you leave them at daycare. This is different. This affects older kids, often around 7 to 9 years old, and the distress is intense and long-lasting. It can make school drop-offs, sleepovers, or even just sleeping in their own room feel impossible.
Then there's social anxiety disorder. This goes way beyond just being shy. It's an intense fear of being judged or embarrassing themselves in front of other people. For a child, this can turn everyday school life, like eating in the cafeteria or answering a question in class, into a truly terrifying experience.
And a really severe, often misunderstood type of social anxiety is selective mutism. This is when a child can speak perfectly fine at home with family, but in other situations, like at school, they're physically unable to get words out. It is so important to understand this. It is not a choice. It's not defiance. It's an anxiety response that literally makes them feel like they cannot speak. Okay, so we've talked about the signs, we've talked about the types. Now we get to the most important part. What can you do? Let's dive into some really practical, empowering things you can start doing at home today.
This right here, this is the whole game. The goal isn't to create a bubble around our kids where nothing ever makes them anxious. That's impossible, and it's not helpful. The real goal is to give them a toolbox, to teach them how to cope so they feel confident and capable of handling life's challenges.
And it really all starts with how we talk to them. So, instead of asking, "Are you anxious?" try a more open question like, "How are you feeling about the party tomorrow?" You can also do a little pre-game talk, walking them through what to expect in a stressful situation. Another huge step is helping them connect the dots. "Hey, I noticed your tummy hurts. I wonder if that's your body telling you you're feeling a little worried." And never underestimate the power of a good routine. Predictability feels like safety to an anxious brain.
Here is a tool that is so simple, it almost feels like a cheat code. Teaching a child to take 3 slow, deep breaths is like handing them a remote control for their own nervous system. It literally sends a message to the brain that says, "Hey, we can calm down now." The trick is to practice it with them when they're calm so it becomes a reflex they can use when they're not.
I love this next idea. It's called the worry box. You just take any old shoebox, decorate it, and it becomes a special place for worries. Your child can write down or draw what's bothering them and post it in the box. This does two amazing things. It gets the worry out of their head and onto paper, and by setting a specific worry time to look at the box together, it teaches them that worries can be contained and managed.
And finally, maybe the most powerful tool of all is you. Our kids are always watching us. They see how we handle our own stress. You don't have to pretend you never worry. In fact, it's good for them to see you have worries. But when they see you deal with it by taking a walk, calling a friend, or taking some deep breaths yourself, you're giving them the best lesson they could ever get.
But what happens when you've tried everything you can at home and it's still not enough? Well, that's when you call in reinforcements. And please, remember, seeking professional help is not a sign of failure. It's a sign of being an amazing, proactive parent. One of the most common and effective types of help is called cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT. It's a very practical, hands-on kind of therapy. It's not about endlessly talking about the past. It's about giving a child skills for the here and now, teaching them to notice their anxious thoughts, to challenge them, and to learn real-world coping strategies.
For some children, medication can also be a really helpful piece of the puzzle. SSRIs are a common and non-addictive type of medication. The simplest way to think about it is that they help rebalance some of the chemicals in the brain, like serotonin, that affect our mood. This can just help turn down the volume on the anxiety enough so that the child can really benefit from the skills they're learning in therapy.
So what does the science say works best? Well, major studies have shown that therapy alone is effective. Medication alone is also effective. But for many kids, the combination of the two, using both CBT and medication together, is actually the most effective path to getting better.
So how do you know when it's time to make that call? Here's a really simple rule of thumb. If the anxiety is consistently getting in the way of the big three, school, friends, or family life, and the things you're trying at home just don't seem to be enough, that's your cue. It's time to talk to a professional.
And I don't want to end on a really hopeful note. The goal here is not to completely eliminate anxiety from a child's life. That's not possible, and it's not even desirable. A little anxiety is a good thing. The goal here is management. It's about teaching our kids that they are bigger than their anxiety and giving them the tools to navigate the world with confidence so they can truly deeply thrive.
So I'll just leave you with this final thought. When a kid falls and scrapes their knee, we don't hesitate. We run over, we give them a hug, we put on a bandage. It's just what we do. So how can we get to a place where we treat their mental health with that exact same immediate, compassionate, and totally normal response? Thanks for joining me.